Today on Virtual Studio, we will be making Cityscape Collages inspired by the children's book Thank You Amu, written and illustrated by Oge Mora. Stay tuned and I'll let you know what materials you need and I'll walk you through the project. Let's get creating! Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I am the Arts for Life program coordinator at Mission Hospital. At Arts for Life, we believe that art is for everyone, so welcome to our virtual studio. Today, we will be working on these cityscape collages inspired by the children's book Thank You Amu. This book is a wonderful story about community, generosity, and gratitude. Each page of this book is a collage created by the author and illustrator Oge Mora. Each collage she created by using old book pages, old maps, pattern papers, as well as papers that she created herself with paint and markers and pastels. So today we will explore just one way that you can make your own beautiful papers, and then we'll use those to create our own collages. So if you have the opportunity, go ahead and open up your book, or you could also watch the read aloud that we will link below. It's a video, and you can just check out each of the beautiful pages. As you're listening or reading the book, make sure you look and notice all the different textures and colors and types of paper that Oge Mora used in her collages. After we have all been inspired by this wonderful story, then we'll come back together and start creating. Wasn't that a lovely story? I know that while I'm creating today, I'm going to be thinking about all the people in my community and ways that I could thank them for taking care of me. And also I'm going to think about how I could be more like Amu. Maybe y'all will think about that too. So here are the materials that we'll need to create our cityscape. You're going to want some construction paper. So you'll want at least one sheet that is a full sheet, like my yellow sheet here. You'll want some bigger scraps, like maybe half a page or a little more. And then you could also use any kinds of scraps you have, from medium size all the way down to little tiny scraps. You'll also want to gather any pretty collaging papers you have. So you might use book pages or newspaper or magazines. Just make sure whoever's they are is okay with you cutting them up. I'm going to use a leftover painting. So if you've ever created an artwork that you didn't exactly like, you can always save it and use it for something different. So I'm going to use this watercolor painting. Or if you have any pattern papers or interesting papers that you want to use, go ahead and grab those. You'll also want crayons if you want to make your own papers, which we'll start with first. You could also use another soft material like colored pencils or pastels. And then we will use scissors and a glue stick today. So make sure if you need help with scissors that you ask an adult for help. Could be your mom or dad or your brother or sister or a nurse or anyone that's close by that could help you. So we're going to start by creating some papers. So you could, if you wanted, you could skip ahead and go ahead and start your collage. But if you'd like to learn a couple ways to design some papers, I'm going to do that first. So these designs are inspired by the book we just read and the way the author and illustrator created her pages. We're not doing it exactly like her, but I am inspired by her designs. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just a really simple scribble technique. So a really cool thing about crayons and paper that's brightly colored is that you can use some lighter colors on top of the brightly colored paper, and it has a really cool effect. So I'm gonna choose a color that's lighter, a color that's about the same, and a color that's darker. You can really choose any colors, but if you're having trouble deciding, that might be a good place to start. So we're gonna do our straight scribble first. So I'm gonna start with my white, and I'm just gonna start with hard lines, straight lines. Just get all over the paper. So bear down with your crayon, and it will create a cool stripy texture. So then move on to one of your other colors and see how the colors interact and make an interesting texture. So you can get all over your paper. And then I'm gonna do my light orange on top. So as you're going with any of these techniques, you can always add more. So if you think, oh, I want it to be a darker red or a darker orange, just go back over again with your darker color. Or if you want it to be lighter, go back over again with your white or your yellow. So this is kind of cool because you can keep going, you can stop whenever you want. Another option here is you could leave it just like that, or you could do what's called cross hatching and turn your paper and do the lines the other way. So I'm gonna do that on just part of my paper today so that I have both options. And it just kind of gives it a totally different texture. I think this would make a really good brick building. So that's one way. Another way is to do a more swirly type of scribble. So I'm gonna grab, this time, I'm gonna do some funky colors. And I'm gonna start by just doing swirly scribbles. This is a great way to get yourself warmed up. Sometimes I'm not inspired, but I want to do some art. And creating papers for yourself can be a great way to get you inspired. So just layer your colors on top of each other, just to build up more color and interest. I'm just doing 3 colors, but you could do as many as you wanted. Sometimes I don't know what I want to collage, so I start by making myself some papers, and then I get inspired and have an idea. So there's that method. I'm going to show you just one more. The other method would be to make yourself some patterns. So I have my patterns started here, but I'm going to show you how I did them. So a pattern is any shape repeated. So some simple patterns are like these little short stripes. Just repeat lines over and over. Down here we've got circles or polka dots. You could also fill your circles in. Keep going. You could do long stripes like these. And I'm adding a squiggle in between every stripe. And you could really keep going. One fun thing to do is use the first letter of your name. That can make a cool pattern, just to repeat that letter over and over again. There's lots of ways to do patterns. So for this technique, it's best to use a white or a light crayon. And then what you'll do is you'll go over top of your patterns with a darker color. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna add some interest to your paper, add a little more depth and texture, but that white crayon is gonna shine through. You're gonna be able to see it really well. And these patterns specifically, I was inspired by in the book. So try different colors, see how it changes the blue of the paper or whatever color paper you have. You can even mix them together and see what happens. So you can just continue on. Your patterned page may take a little bit longer than your 2 scribble pages. So just keep working as long as you want until you like it. And then you'll have all these fun papers to choose from. And that way you can mix them together with any other papers you have to make a really interesting collage. So now that we have our papers all ready, we're gonna start building our picture. So you can follow the design of my picture if you want. You could think about your house or apartment building or neighborhood, or you could find a page in the book that you like and build from there. So I just wanted to show you the page in the book that I was inspired by. I liked this page because it showed Amu reading her book, and it showed the little boy playing, and it showed the soup that brought the whole neighborhood together. So I built mine similarly, where I really liked being able to see inside the different apartments. So you can choose how you want to build your picture. So you'll want to have your background paper in front of you. And in order to create your collage, you're going to start with the biggest shapes first and work your way forward. So we've got our background paper in front of us, and next we're going to do our buildings. So I'm going to use my patterned papers for the buildings. I'm going to start with my bigger sheets since the buildings will take up a lot of room. So you can kind of lay it on your page. I think mine might be a little too tall. So you can use your scissors to trim. Remember to ask for help if you need it. You could also tear your page. So I'm going to make my building a little skinnier. A little shorter. And then I also want to add a little cutout. So I like the way Amu's apartment building had a little cutout like that. And be sure to save your scraps for later. So I've got one building, and then I'm going to have a building that's sort of behind Amu's and the little boys. Let's see. So I'm going to trim this one. I want to slide it behind the main building. There, so now I have 2 buildings. You can create yours however you want. Remember, if you're creating a neighborhood that is more like full of houses than big buildings, you could also create, triangles for roofs, which some tall buildings also have roofs like that. So you can use your papers in any shapes that you like. So the next step, once you have the main part of your house or building, you're going to want to add some windows. So I'm going to use my patterned papers for windows because I liked how Amu had patterned, what looked like patterned wallpaper to me. So to cut your windows, you can cut or tear some squares. I would start big because you can always cut it smaller if you want to. but you can't uncut it. So just add your squares however you like. You may want to create them a little bit bigger than you think you want them to be so that you can add some more details on top. So since this building is behind this building, I'm going to make the windows a little bit smaller to make it look like the building's farther away. For this, I'm going to use my cool watercolor papers. I'm gonna do one big stripe and then cut them into little squares. The cool thing about collage is it can be really freeform. Doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I think it looks a lot cooler when they're kind of all different shapes a little bit. So I really want to use my newspaper because I love the way the author and illustrator used book pages. I think it's just an interesting thing that you might not see on all art. So I'm going to use mine. I'm going to make long strips and then trim them up to be little ledges for my windows. Since this picture is a close-up of the buildings, you don't see the street, but if you did a street view, you may want to also add doors or even the street itself, sidewalks. You could even do people, but I would start with the buildings because squares and triangles and rectangles are really easy to cut even for beginners. So once you have all your pieces, then you can glue down. I like to lay mine out before gluing in case I change my mind about something. You can see on my other final piece that I also added in some curtains, which you could do as well. You could even add flowers to these windowsills, all sorts of things. But so that we have enough time, I'll show you that the next thing you'll do is glue. So when we were cutting, we started with the biggest shapes first, but when we're gluing, we're going to start with the smallest shapes first. So you can go ahead and open up your glue stick and start gluing down your windows and your windowsills. And then once those are finished gluing, then you can glue down your buildings on top of your background page. So I'm not going to do that right now because I know that you can do it. So I am done walking you through the steps of this project, and you can continue gluing until your picture is totally done. Great work, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Arts for Life's virtual studio today. I hope you enjoyed creating with me. Here is my finished collage. I bet yours looks a lot different, and that is what is so cool about art. You probably have a finished picture, but you might also have some new beautiful paper scraps. What do you think you could make with these? Be sure to keep them in a baggie or somewhere safe so that tomorrow you could make a totally different collage. I think with mine, I'm gonna make a thank you note for one of my neighbors who cares for people like Amu does. Be sure to show us what you made, if you'd like to, by posting a picture in the comments below. And remember, art is for everyone.